the more you can be disciplined and consistent on yourself in your physical state, in your financial state, in your spiritual state, in your emotional state, it will pay off slowly but surely and compound to be great. Um, so it is incredibly difficult to take all those skills and really figure out what your mission and goal is. Um, what I've said is if you don't have a clear mission and vision, and you don't know what your gift or your purpose is in life, then your reason for living is to go figure out what that is. And then when you do figure out that reason, then that becomes your reason.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth That Heals podcast. Our guest for today is a U.S. Army veteran, father of four, and founder of Exhort Leadership. He also has his podcast, The Business Coffee Hour with William Garay Jr. Today, our special guest is William Garay. Welcome to the podcast, William. How are you doing?
And I'm doing well, and I really appreciate that warm introduction. I'm excited to get into it, talk a little bit more.
Yeah, can you share with us where you're coming from today?
Today I'm coming from Pearland, Texas, which is just south of Houston. It's probably, I would say, about 160,000 people. We're right south of Houston, and this is my home office.
All right, well, thank you for being here today, and I'm excited to hear all about your journey, all about your Exhort Leadership, and about your podcast. But first, I always like to get to know the guest a bit better. So, can you share a bit about your background before we really get started?
Yeah, the big thing is I served in the Army for 13 years. Before the Army, I did grow up in Houston. I had very young parents. They're 19 and 17. So we moved a lot. Uh, and we ended up here in Pearland in 2004. By that time, I had just graduated high school. So I lived in Pearland for a year and then I joined the Army. And through that journey was difficult. This is the surge, so 2005, right when they're scaling up the troops in Iraq. I did 2 deployments to Iraq. Uh, in that time, I got married, divorced, had 4 kids, all from different uh, states. So I had one born in Georgia, I had one born in San Antonio, which is where you're at. I
Yes.
had one in North Carolina, and then my last one was born here. Got out in 2018, and that transition is so difficult when you get out of the Army. That first year, it's very, very hard. I don't think you ever fully transition, it's a huge mindset shift. But I worked at a warehouse for a year or so. I really started to find my calling there. Worked at a nonprofit for a year and a half. A lot about leadership, a lot about financial stability. How do we improve? My wife and I started a business called Snowie. So we did shaved ice and lemonades. Paid off all of our debt. And from there, it was completely different. Like, okay, now we're doing this on our own. I did get medically retired from the military. So I do have retirement income coming in. So when we paid off our debt, we were able to free ourselves from that 9 to 5 job, and which is why we have a couple of businesses now. We live here in Pearland with my 4 kids. We have a couple of dogs. It's a good life. I am truly blessed.
So, you mentioned the word transition. Can you share with us what was it like during that period of transitioning from being in the Army for 13 years to now, working in a warehouse, and then from there you just started getting busy and doing all these amazing projects.
It does sound that way, right? Like, it sounds so fluid, but it's difficult. It is so hard because when you're in the military, that culture is weird, hard, extreme, as I always say it. But I come from a Mexican background, so I would say the one thing that a lot of those characteristics, those cultures share in mine, is there's a lot of drinking that goes on. And so I can tell you that transition out, like going from the military, it's not that I was an alcoholic or heavy drinkers, but I would say most military veterans have that in them, coming home and doing the same thing, wanting to party, wanting to hang out. wanted to be out and about, and it just didn't live the lifestyle that I wanted to live. And there was a breaking point. My wife and I, had our troubles, and I talk about this a lot, but my wife did leave me. And I'll always say this, it was that moment that I really started to get my life together. Because when she left, she says, "You can fix this."
Mhm.
And I was like, "What do I do to fix this?" Because again, I mean, there was four of us living in a three-bedroom house, one and a half bath, and it was just wasn't a healthy lifestyle. We were living paycheck to paycheck. We're going out and drinking. There was arguments, and I just wasn't where I needed to be. And when that happened, um, I was like, okay, what do I start to fix? And the truth is, the best thing you can fix is yourself. So, only because this word is in your title, I started to heal myself. What are the traumas that I have? How do I get better? Started going to counseling, started taking charge of our finances, started reading more books. And at this time, I was at the warehouse. We set a goal to pay off our debt. We set goals to go to Disney. We set a goal to get a new house. And all of this came from that dark moment where it's like, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. How do I get out of this? Um, Obviously, you kind of heard my wife and I did reconcile. So it is tremendously difficult to transition, no matter if you're in the military or not. It's hard to figure out what do you fix first.
Mhm. And during this time, you said that you were reading books, and were there any authors that you would gravitate to, or maybe any influencers or s- speakers? Because you're a speaker yourself now. So during this time, were there people that you would just gravitate towards?
You know, so this is probably 2000, and I got it in 2018, so right around 2019. The book that I finally read for finances, there was two. First, it was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it was, for me, the one that always sticks out in my mind is rich people talk about money and poor people don't. I'm like, okay, how do I get around people that talk about money? Then I read Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. And I said, okay, I could do this. I'm a military guy. You give me instructions, you tell me how to do something, I can go and follow that. Right? You give me the information, I'll go um, imitate it, follow it, and then I'll start to innovate it. And so my wife and I did that. We're like, okay, well, if we just follow this process, we could do it. One of the things that he says in that book as well is if you want to get out of debt, you want to get out of the hole that you're digging, stop digging, right? And then find a bigger shovel. And that's when we were like, okay, well, how do we make more money? Started garage selling, started getting rid of things, and he says it in the book, and I'll say it too. I started selling so much stuff, my kids got afraid that they were next, or the dogs thought we were going to sell them. It was like we're selling everything, and we did. We started slowly chipping away at this, and it was like, well, how do we make more money? And then we got into a shaved ice business, and we've been doing that business for, oh man, almost 5 years now. Where we had some friends that were doing it. We took them out to dinner, asked a bunch of information, asked all the questions, and they said, we have some old equipment. If you're interested, we can sell it to you. That's how we got into Snowie. It was it. So those two books I always love because they're almost opposites when it comes to finances. Like one is leveraging debt, right? And one is eliminating debt. And I think for each individual, you have to find what works best for you.
Yeah.
So we did the Dave Ramsey route. Now that we're debt free, we're not afraid of debt. We've used debt to leverage getting more equipment for our business. So it's like almost to each his own.
Yeah.
But those are two guys that I really listen to. And then, you talked about speakers. The other guy is Gary V. I'm a huge Gary
Mm.
Vaynerchuk guy. He's helped me a lot when it comes to mindset and really leaning into the soft skills of my life and make me successful.
Well, Gary Vee is a huge motivator. I've heard him quite a bit, especially during my drives. And in the beginning of the podcast, I was very like, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I should like
Mm.
keep going. And then I'd press some Gary Vee, and he'd be like, "Go fucking do it, man!" And you know how he talks, and it's like, wow, I got I like. Like sometimes I know deep inside that I have to do something, but sometimes it's good to have like a little motivational uh pep talk. And so yeah, it's I guess that's helped me to establish where I am today, and it's amazing to see you where you are today doing so many good things, and you have your podcast. Can you tell us a bit about how that got started?
Very similar to exactly what you said. As I was growing and getting better, I remember Gary Vee said something, and it says, if you're happy, you have more of a sense of responsibility to post because you're happy, because there's so much negativity out there. And I was like, all right, this is probably I think this may be 2021. And I took my phone, I turned it around, and I posted a video. This is like on my birthday. And yeah, it was just something like that, like something motivational, quick, that 20, 30 seconds. And then, you get a couple of reactions, and then I did it the same thing the next day. And I did that style of video for 2.5 years, all the way until probably last December. Every single day I was posting a new video or I was making a new reel basically.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of inspiration, and folks told me that they really enjoyed it, and it built the habit of posting, posting, posting. And of course, the more you listen to Gary Vee, the more he seeps into your head. And it's like, if you want to really do this, go do a podcast. Take what I do long form content and break it up. I was like, okay, well, this is 2021. How do I do a podcast? And sure enough, there's a friend of mine that I met, or a person I met. His name's Raul Moreno, and he had a podcast called Charlie Mike, the podcast. And Charlie Mike means continue mission. So it was very veteran focused. We got connected. We hit it off really well. And then he asked me to come co-host his podcast. So I co-hosted his podcast for a year. And during that time, we became so close and tight that it was like, what if we did this as a business? What if we help other people podcast? So we started a podcast studio called Pearland's Podcast Studio. And there I said, we really need to make sure that we do a podcast for just business owners. And he says, well, you do it. You do a podcast. And I was like, well, I really want it to be around business and leadership. He goes, well, you should. You record it here and you do it. And I was like, well, what do you think about the business coffee hour? He says, yeah, I think that's great. He goes, but you got to put your name on it. I said, what do you mean? He goes, it needs to be business coffee hour with William Garay Jr. It needs to be yours. And I was like, okay. So that's how we started. And he goes, and I know who your first guest will be. He goes, it's going to be Mayor Cole. All we have to do is reach out to him. And Mayor Kevin Cole is the mayor of Pearland. So I did 5 solo episodes, and then I had the mayor on, and then it was just like, okay, how do we keep doing this? And so it was kind of top of funnel for us, letting other people know, hey, this is how you podcast. This is what we can do in Pearland. And Rollo and I have continued that relationship, and he's moved a couple of times, and I just follow along wherever he goes. Okay, have my podcast here. It's been so much fun to do.
So I'm seeing the growth, but we're also seeing the origins. You said you started off by getting your phone and just started recording. Um, how was it like that very first time you grabbed the phone and pressed the record button? Were you already were you a natural when you started doing this?
I do think that I have a gift that way, that I gravitate towards finding motivation and helping others. That definitely comes from a military background. It also really comes from my mother, my grandmother. They were always, speaking life into me, lifting me up, being very encouraging, and count your blessings and all those things. So when I finally was able to, I would say, push through that fear of what does this look like? Is this what I'm going to be? That very first time, at the end of the day, you know what he says? It's just post it, right? Just post it. And as, of course, we all, at the very beginning, like, is this doing well? Is it good enough?
Mhm.
We have all of our own insecurities. But the more I learned about social media, the easier it got to say, it's going to find the receiver. This post, this video is for one person. That's it. All I have to do is make it for one person. Half the time, that one person is me. Like, those are the words that I need to hear, and somebody else resonates with it. So it just got easier. Like, what do I need to hear today? What is it that I need to do? or or I have an interaction with somebody else and like, what is it they need to hear, or what did they take from this conversation? How can I replay that again for them? So every post got a little easier. And now it's not like my posts are fantastically great, right? It's not like they
Yeah.
skyrocket. I just know that every post is going to find that one person. And that's all I needed it to do is to find one person to help.
So now you have your podcast, you have your business, you're the founder of the Exhort Leadership. Can you tell us a bit about the vision and the mission of Exhort Leadership?
What's interesting is I just changed that name to Exhort Leadership. And exhortation it's a biblical reference, right? Exhort means to incite through argument or advice. And one of the things I'm big on, especially from my perspective as being a dad too, is I want to help make those changes. I if I have I tell my kids this often, I have to be the bad guy for that, then I'll be that bad guy, right? There's the argument. But I really want to be that encourager. So through advice, I want to be able to help people change. And sometimes you need an accountability partner, and sometimes you need solid advice. So it's being able to do both. And that's what I love about exhort. That's what it means. But as far as coaching and leadership, I've been doing that a very long time. I'm also the oldest son. I'm the only boy in my family. I've got two younger sisters, and so there's always this need to care for others and help them and push them to grow. But that journey has been interesting because now it's owning that this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is how I do it. And it definitely has come through the repetitions of podcasting and social media. Like it's helped me craft a great message because now I have that information and I'm able to ask good questions and give good feedback.
After your talks, do people even come up to you asking for advice on leadership?
It happens. I wouldn't say it's like an immediate like, hey, let me hear more of you. But one of the things I love to do is have coffee with people. And I think there's always questions that they have. Like how would you handle this? Or what is it that we can do better? Um, and so for me, it's just listening to their problems, asking really good questions to craft what is the root of this problem, and then just sharing some tools or some advice that I've seen work for me, and then relating to them like, that they're not alone in this. Like this problem really isn't unique. It's all about how you can solve it yourself, or your spin on how you solve the problem. Um, and and I'm just like, let me show you how I've done it. This is what I've done. You could try this, or you could try this. And then the real key is to just follow up with them, a week later, a month later. Hey, how's this been for you? What have you seen work? And it's helped me build really good relationships.
So do you also consider yourself to be like a life coach
I think so. I do think
or
so.
or
I
or a
think a lot of
men?
that goes to it.
Yeah.
A mentor, yeah, I definitely see that. But what's interesting is here in Pearland, our Chamber of Commerce, there is a young professionals group, right? And that's 22 to 40, which is a
Mhm.
big group.
Yeah.
I'm 39, so I'm on the tail end of this young professional career. But I love to go there because I love to be able to help them and share with them, like, yeah, I've been there, I've done this. And one of the things that I've really been able to craft and relate now is when I was in the military, that's all we did. All you do is you develop the next generation of leaders to take your job so you can go do something else. And I didn't realize it until probably about 6 months ago. It was like, oh, that's what this young professional group does for me. I can come in, and even though I'm a young professional still, I can help the youngest or anyone younger to go through those same experiences. That's what mentorship is. That's what leadership is. I'm trying to help give them the skills that I have so that they can go be, successful.
And how does it feel when you see that your advice has really helped someone build their future?
It is very rewarding. It's rewarding. I've mentioned it on a different podcast that I just want to be the ripple. I don't have to cause huge changes. But if I can help them solve a little bit of a problem and be a small part in their success, it's not because I want credit for their success. It's just like, man, look at them go shine. look at what they're able to do. And I got to give credit to the past leaders that I've had because that's the way they were. I mean, even Raul that I mentioned with him, like him making sure that I named the podcast Business Coffee Hour with William Gray Jr. It's really cool because he loves that too. He's like, I love to see you shining. I love to see people, going to your podcast and seeing what the things that you're doing in Pearland. And it's like, there's no competition, right? And he doesn't need credit. I don't need credit for their success. I just like to be able to know that I played a small role in their growth, as however small it may be. I'm like, that's cool. That's fulfilling because now they're going to go out and make these huge changes and do the same thing that I did for them, to somebody else.
Now, something that I'm curious about because hearing you being in the military for 13 years, you know how to follow orders and to get it executed. You know how to do it well, and if someone wants you to do something, you get it done. No questions. My question for you is, how did it feel when you have that independence and there's nobody telling you what to do next? And how were you able to organize yourself? Because now we see in you this organization, we see this strategy, we see that you have your things, you have your shit together. And because it's interesting because there are so many young men out there, young people who may not know how to pick themselves up, or maybe they're afraid of a little discipline. How was it for you to lead yourself?
It is equally exciting and terrifying.
Oh,
It both. And I think at first you start off like, this is awesome. I'm going to do all these great things. I have all the skills that I need. And then it's also, you get humbled really easy. Like when I was at the warehouse, I wasn't the greatest leader. And I know that. And I love that place. I will always talk great things about that organization. They're phenomenal, really, and but the role that I was in, I didn't care for that role. I was in a warehouse specialist, right? I knew I could do more, but I also didn't have the skills that I did now. So as great as I thought I could have been, and I knew I had these skills, it still took polishing, it still took refinement. And like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, like I could be a good person or a good leader outside of my home. But what was I doing at home? That was off. I wasn't the same person. And what I can tell you now is the person that I am now, whether it be at home, at work, on socials, or not in person, it's the same person. And I think that really is the biggest goal for all of us is how do we get there? Um, when I got out of the army, I also put on weight. I had put on like 30 pounds. I was almost 200 pounds. I'm only 5'6". And so like I was a heavy guy and it's all of it is aligned. You know, the more you can be disciplined and consistent on yourself in your physical state, in your financial state, in your spiritual state, in your emotional state, it will pay off slowly but surely and compound to be great. Um, so it is incredibly difficult to take all those skills and really figure out what your mission and goal is. Um, but what I've said is if you don't have a clear mission and vision, and you don't know what your gift or your purpose is in life, then your reason for living is to go figure out what that is. And then when you do figure out that reason, then that becomes your reason for doing all the hard things. Like if I think I know I have this gift of exaltation, of being able to inspire, of helping others. But I didn't always know that. So for a couple of years, it took me a while to figure it out through podcasting, through making those videos. But now that I know I have this, everything else becomes a little easier. So the more disciplined I am, the better shape I am, the healthier I am, the more I can go do my gift and help others, you know, find their own mission, find their own vision.
Well, I love that answer. And now we're at the very end of 2024. At the time of this recording, it's the very end. 2025 is coming up. Are there any big plans or maybe any big projects that you have coming up for this next year?
Oh yeah, definitely. I give a lot of credit back to my wife too. So for the last 3 years, we have sat down in December and gone over our goals for the next year. Then this was our third year doing it. And every year they get a little bit bigger. We start to dream a little bit more, and hold each other accountable. But one thing that I will tell you, and I go back to my wife again, because I think this is so valuable. When she left, she said, "You can fix this," right? She believed that. There was never in her a doubt in her mind that I was going to do the things that I needed to do to fix this relationship. And, obviously I'm fixing and healing myself too through all this process. In the summer of this year, my wife says, "I see you speaking on stages, babe. I see you selling out arenas." And for me, I always thought that I was headed that way too. But hearing it from her, right, spoke life into me and allowed me to January will be one of the first times that I was asked to be part of a collective group. We're doing a Live to Lead event, which is a John Maxwell event, and there's 10 speakers, and I'm one of the panelists to be on this stage. So when you say, what do I see coming? I see a lot more of that. I see a lot more of that. I see opportunities like that presenting themselves. And for me, it's being able to do the work to craft a good message, to incite change, to help people get motivated, to get unstuck, and not just actually, I've always had trouble with this motivational speaker gift. And I like to quote Jim Rohn here, and he says, motivation is like bathing. It's best if it's applied daily. And so I'm always like, I never wanted to be a motivational speaker, just one time thing, but sometimes we all need someone to speak life into us like that. And then that's where I bring it back full circle to my wife. Like what she did for me, right? Breathing life into me, like believing in me, that is what I do for others too now. I want them to know, like when we have a one-on-one interaction, like I'm hoping that by the time you and I are done with this conversation, that you're motivated to go do the things that you need to do. And that's how I see it all the time now. It's like she does that to me. Like that's how I get full. That's where my life comes from. And it allows me to go do more. So 2025 is probably going to be my breakout year where it's like, oh, where did this guy come from? Who was he? What and I don't think I'm not trying to be arrogant. I see that.
Yeah.
And I believe it because my wife said it. Like, she said that. I was like, oh, all right, well, this is what we're gonna do, babe.
So words have a lot of power. We can see that also from the words that your wife, gave you. And my question for you now is, do you have a favorite saying or a favorite quote?
Yes, it's by Leo Tolstoy. The sole meaning of life is to serve humanity. And I remember finding this quote because of Jim Rohn. As I was like, I don't know why I was gravitating to Jim Rohn. I just love the way he crafted the message sometimes. And I remember like everybody has a mentor. Everybody has a mentor. Everybody's affected by different people. So I kept going back, like, okay, well, who influenced Jim Rohn? And then I think there was something where I can't really remember if it was um, like Muhammad Gandhi that Jim Rohn had mentioned, like seeing him. And then I was like, okay, well, who influenced him? And then I found Leo Tolstoy. And then I just happened to find that quote. And I was like, where does this come from? And I was like, okay, well, so many of like to search humanity. And I found it probably right when I was, changing myself, like trying to figure out what my passion, what my service is, what I'm supposed to do. And I was like, if that's the sole meaning, then just serve others. Just give, and then all the books I started to read, all the things I like, there is this underlying message, service, service, giving. If I want, I mean, you could even go biblical, right? Like, if you want great riches, what are you doing with the money that you do have? Are you a good steward of your money? Where's that first 10% supposed to go? Like you have to give first. You have to honor what you're doing. And so that's just how I see life now. So when it comes to in the business, when it comes to speaking on a stage, I want to make sure that I'm providing more value than this person feels like they paid for. Right? You're here for an hour with me, right? I want to be like, that was the greatest hour that I had. Like I could have been doing a million things out there, but this hour was well spent. Yeah, service.
Well, thank you for your time. And now I want to ask you the question that I ask every guest on the show, and that is, William, what is your truth that heals?
Ooh, I think that for me, I go back to you are enough. It is one of the ways that I close out my podcast now. I always say you are loved, you are enough, and you're stronger than the problems that face you. Uh, and like I said, oftentimes that message is for one person on the other side, and oftentimes it's for me. And we get caught up in thinking that we're not enough, that ah, there's always more that we could do, that there's, you know, just the feeling of not being enough, of like who I am isn't worthy. But I think that everybody needs to know that they are enough. What you're doing now is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And if you feel like there's more that you can't give, you will be able to. But right now, given the effort that you have, it is enough. It's enough to get by. It's enough to overcome all those things. All the skills that you have right now are enough. They're enough to get started. You know, the plan that you have is enough. Go do the thing, where you're at is enough, and when you can start to track where do you have enough, where are you grateful for, what are the little things in your life, you start to see how abundant your life really is. And so I kind of stay anchored in that. That's how I connect it all back to gratitude. Like, this house I live in is enough. I have enough time that I'm spending with my kids. So am I doing what's right by that? And you got to know you're enough. And if you're enough, you know, be enough, love yourself enough to be that.
Well, thank you very much, William, for being here on the podcast, for sharing about your journey and your truth. And at this part, do you have any handles that you would like to share with the audience?
Yes. Yeah, my handle is at Mustache Wisdom on all platforms, all those fun platforms. And if you're interested in more of a professional look, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn and then just backslash William Garay Jr.
Okay, and before we wrap this up, I have a bonus question,
Ooh,
and
yes.
I can cut it, but my
No,
bonus
please ask it.
okay, my bonus question is, what is the secret to your mustache?
It is a good wax, a good wax. For me, I've had this mustache now for 5 years. Of course, it came after I came out of the army. Everybody as a veteran, when you get out, you don't want to grow. Everybody wants to grow a nice full beard because we can't, right? We have to shave all the time. I cannot grow a full beard, but I can grow a mustache. Right? So I had it for a year. I was just kind of growing it out. And my wife was like, you really should just tame that thing. So I found an amazing company. They call it Death Grip Mustache Wax. And I just bought one that I liked. And now it's just stays. And it's everywhere. I have bugs that have a
Yeah.
mustache on it. My business card has a mustache on it. It's one of those things that helps me stand out. And then I go right back to put it into my handle, Mustache Wisdom. It's like, I don't know. It's patience, taking care of it, just like everything. You take care of it, and it takes care of you. People will remember the mustache. And then one of the things I love to do too, and hopefully we can stay connected, is I love to use it in emails. So whenever we connect and exchange business cards, I always say mustache, like mustache to connect, like must ask.
Yeah.
And it's like people remember. And I never intended it like, oh, this is going to be a gimmick, but now it just has become that.
Well, I think it's super cool. So,
I
yeah,
appreciate
but
that.
I had to know the secret. How does he keep it so perfect? So, thank you for
So it, it,
sharing.
it is a wax, you heat it up, you apply it, you shape it. There's like, I have like probably there's four or five different s- weights. Some you have to heat up with the blow dryer. Some you can just it's malleable. Some are really light, and it's like I like it too. I'm thankful my wife likes it because if she didn't like it, we'd be eating a different version.
So maybe next you can do like a tutorial on how to do it, like a
Yeah,
step by step.
you got it.
Well, anyways, thank you so much, William, for being on the podcast. And to the audience, go check out William Garay's podcast, The Business Coffee Hour with William Garay Jr. And everyone who's listening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enjoy the rest of your day. William, thank you for being a guest on the Truth That Heals podcast.
Thank you very much.